Hey guys, this is Anna with Wick, and tonight's video is on the Time to Ground Intuitive Crafted Candle. Um, little bit of explanation on the Intuitive Crafted Candle title. If you follow Wick Creations on Facebook or on Instagram, then you know last week we kind of had a little experiment of sorts. I'm one of those people. I love tarot cards. I love oracle cards. They are a major part of my practice. At least weekly, if not more often, I am having some alone time with just me and my cards and, probably a cup of coffee or tea or something. Just kind of, that's my time. And I love going on Instagram and Facebook and seeing actual readers have, the spreads that they've created and kind of go into more depth on how to use these tools for divination purposes. But the thing I love most is when they have the 3-card draw or the 6-card draw. I've seen the number of cards, whatever it may be. It's usually 3 cards. And they'll say, and they'll all be face down. So you have 3 cards face down in front of you. That's what the post looks like. And then it'll say, here's the question, or clear your mind and think of something that's been weighing on you. And choose card 1, 2, or 3. And that later on in the day, I'll come back and reveal all the cards and you can see what your message is. Sometimes they'll include stones to help with this kind of connection or resonance. But regardless, it's so cool that people thought of doing this. Because I, for one, I love it. I go on there and I see the 3-card spread and it's like, oh my gosh, yes, I have so many questions. Let's figure this out. And every time I've done that seemingly simple little exercise, the response I've gotten, the message I've gotten in return has been so powerful and so meaningful that it just, I love it. I think it's a great thing. And I've kind of wanted to duplicate it with Wick, but I don't read cards like with Wick. Wick's about making candles, so or other spiritual crafts. So I started working on a tarot set of candles, working with the major arcana, and that unfortunately kind of fell to the wayside. I need to get back to that. I got the first 11 done and then I didn't finish it, so that is something that I want to get back to. But I love oracle cards as well. That's a major thing that if I'm reading someone else, 9 times out of 10, it's with oracle cards. I have my tarot deck that I use for myself. I do have a couple other tarot decks if someone else wants a reading and I feel a connection with them and I feel okay to do that because I do think it's such a personal thing that I get worried about it. But oracle cards I just love because they have such, they pack a wallop, for lack of a better phrase. One card can just hold so much within it. And not to say tarot doesn't, but it's just something I resonate with. So I had the idea for a while of, well, I could do, or specific oracle cards could become candles. And then last week, on a day that everything seemed to be about changing perspective or taking a leap or doing breaking out of the box, doing something unexpected or that I've been apprehensive to do in my creative process. And it hit me, this idea, that the really amazing thing that I love about tarot readers on Instagram and Facebook and what have you, the 3-card spread, I could use that and have those people that follow Wick Creations on Instagram or on Facebook, they can actually intuitively pick a card that will become a candle. And so it started with, okay, here are 4 decks of my oracle cards. Pick one of the decks. And the deck that won was the messenger deck, and our messenger oracle. And then I pulled 3 cards at random. I grabbed some stones as well, to help people that maybe connect more to the crystal or the stone more so than the card itself, and paired those up. And then face down, I laid the 3 cards, and people throughout the day would comment, 1, 2, or 3, or onyx, citrine, or seashell. Those were the 3 stones, items that I grabbed. And whichever card had the most votes, that would be the card that would become a candle. I did lay out all the cards and gave all of their meanings, because if you were someone who voted for card 2 but card 3 won, you still picked 2. There might be a message there probably is a message there for you that you should know, regardless of whether this specific card is becoming a candle or not. So yeah, at the end of the day, the card that won was Time to Ground, and I do have that kind of here on my altarpiece. That's the card. It's so beautiful. I absolutely love it. So when I found that was the card that had won, I kind of started jotting down some ideas for a sigil. And then when I got home, I set up my altar with these pieces here. So I put the card up with, this is actually a Beltane wand of sorts, or staff, that I had made in honor of Cernunnos, because when I purchased the Messenger Oracle deck, it was in honor of Cernunnos as my patron. Pine cone, of course. I've got an antler over here, a deer antler. And then just lit my candles. I've got, of course, my little foxes back there, and the ancestor bottle is here. So I just set this up and kind of had some quiet moments of meditation, just kind of thinking of what I wanted this piece to be about and what I really wanted it to feel like. So I thought I would do a video of the finished piece. Let's see if I can get more light. There we go. I put up pictures on Instagram and Facebook kind of showing it as well throughout the process. But I thought I would do a video just kind of on what led me to this and how that whole process worked. The silent meditation before really starting on the project was very helpful, because it helped remind me some personal connections I have to grounding. On a personal note, when I first kind of began working with meditation and working with the kind of the idea of going dream working and vision quests, things like that, I never understood, or even group work, like being in circle with friends or what have you. I never really connected to the grounding aspect. I never really understood why that was a thing. And I think for me, the reason why I always had that disconnect was I struggle far more with the letting go and the being able to release and take that spiritual experience or take that journey to wherever it is I need to go to find whatever message is there for me. It's when I do begin to dream walk or vision quest, what have you, 9 times out of 10, my brain will just kind of start logicking everything away. It's like, well, this is what I'm seeing, but is this what I'm seeing because this is what I want to see? And it took me forever to kind of realize how I work with meditation. But grounding is just, it's never been an issue for me. And then a couple of years ago, I had an experience at a convention where we were working on meditations with in working with the underworld. And those meditations were insane. They were so insightful and so connected and so not what I was expecting. It took me a really long time and a lot of work to kind of come back into my being and kind of understand and process everything that I had experienced in those classes. And now, after having that experience and kind of getting my head around, okay, when other people ground and they say this, this, and this, for me, this means this, this, and this. Like I've said in so many of my videos, and really, if you ever hang out with me, talk with me, what have you, sorry, excuse me, I'm very big on whatever I experience and I say this is what happens and this is what this means. I'm only ever talking about myself. There's no way in heck I can ever be talking about what you should experience or what you should go through. That's your journey. That's your path. As hippy dippy as that may sound, what you experience, I hope, is going to be different than what I experience, because that's kind of what makes this whole thing so cool. Everyone's spiritual path is varied. It is different because we are all varied. We are all different. And so grounding as a concept, I discovered, meant something very different for me than what it means for others. And now it's even worked into my regular life. I am someone that struggles very, very much with social anxiety, depression. I have huge issues even just speaking to people. It's why Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff is so great, because I don't have to actually be in front of someone, or even just talking on the phone. It freaks me out. I don't know why. It's a real issue. Messenger on Facebook freaks me out. I don't know why. It's a real issue. But I found grounding techniques actually have helped me work through those issues as well. Just kind of that getting out of my head and starting to feel every bit of my being and understand where it all fits and what it all is, and kind of trace things back to a very base level helps me kind of go through all the junk in my head and realize I'm being irrational or being, overanalyzing things or what have you. So grounding as a tool to use. Yes, it's very helpful in meditation. Yes, it's very helpful in vision quests and dream walks and all sorts of things. But it can mean so many different things, and it can be about so many different things. For me, at a very base level, what grounding is simply being, and being comfortable with that. Just standing there, knowing who you are, knowing where you are, what you are, and feeling that. And I realize that sounds really weird, and even saying it, I kind of cringe a bit, because it sounds like I should be I don't know what, but I don't know how else to phrase it. It's simply, for me, is a way to, yes, connect to the things around me, to connect to nature, to connect to the primal forces, to connect to the good folk, the elements, whatever it is I'm trying to connect to. Yes, it can help me connect to that, but most importantly, it connects me to myself and to where I actually am and what I am actually doing, to the here and the now, because that is so important in our everyday life, just to understand where we are, what we're doing, and take time to honor that and appreciate that. Because, dude, we have one life. This is our one life experience in this. Whatever comes after this is something different. So right here, right now, this is our moment. This is it. So if we don't take time to really try to wrap our heads around everything that we have, I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves in a way. And for me, that's such a big concept. What are we? Where are we? What is this all about? You need to have that foundation, that stability of just, I know I am this. I know I am here. I know what have you. And taking those times to kind of feel that. But then, of course, to ground yourself, to bring yourself back into being. I hope that ramble makes sense. It just felt important to kind of go into a more personal thing for me, because that did feed into the sigil creation. So the sigil itself, and of course with the drips, you can't see too terribly much, but it started off with the rune of algaes up on the top. I had 3 prongs, and then I had an eye to kind of connect to that spiritual self, that third eye that we all have, that in this case it is awakened underneath the drips. But after I did the algaes, I kind of realized I wanted it more than just the 3 prongs. I wanted it to connect to the elements up here, kind of like a tree reaching out to those primal elements that are all around us. So this kind of created a branch to connect to the alchemaic symbol of earth. Then you had air. Then you had fire, and then you had water, and in the center is a pentagram. Or no, the wheel. I'm sorry, the spiritual wheel to connect to spirit. And then those came in. The eye was still in the middle. And when they came into the major line, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, vein, what have you, I did create a smaller algaes, because I think when we are grounding, it is to call upon call upon whatever energies you work with to protect you, to kind of give you that insulation. You need a bit of that protection to bring yourself back from wherever you are, whether it's psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual, what have you. If you are not within yourself and not there in your physical being at that time, for whatever reason, you want a bit of that protection to kind of keep you safe while you're recalling your own power and your own person in a way. Then as the vein kind of flows down here, you have a circle that has a star in it. And yes, that could be a pentagram. It could be a pentacle. For me, it actually is the full moon of the goddess symbol. Here you have the maiden crescent. You have a darkened circle, kind of for the dark, because the maiden symbol is about light. So then you have a darkened circle for that balance, light and dark. Then you have the full moon, and I have the star in the middle of that, because it does bring about that spiritual connection, that the mysteries, the intuition, all those wonderful things the high priestess stands for. And then here another circle, but this one is light. It's empty in the middle, so it's the lighter circle that I use for balance. I usually try to have one dark circle, one light circle to mean balance in my workings. And then of course the crone moon, which is kind of the darker aspect of the goddess. So you've got the light, the full, and the dark, and then the circles to balance each other as well. Then I also have 3 dark and 3 light little mini circles. Can't really see the top, but there's the bottom. And then I reversed it over here. So down here is the 3 light and then the 3 dark up on top. Switch that. The 3 dark on the bottom, 3 light on top. Then as we go down the vein, you have a star, the Fey magic star, to connect to the good folk, or the she. You have 2 antlers to connect to the horned god, or the god. Then down here you have a spiral a spiral to connect to energy, to connect to whatever powers it is you pull from, but also to connect to yourself. And then here I have a kind of semicircle, which is supposed to represent that third eye kind of not closing off, but more resting. Just because you want to bring that spiritual experience into yourself, but reconnect yourself. So that's kind of the process is, here are the elements, I'm connected, I'm awake, I'm bringing in all this, and then as I'm going through all these spiritual journeys, once I'm done, I kind of connect here and I'm able to calm myself, bring myself back into being. Down here I have two feathers shooting off from the closed eye. One is light, one is dark. Again, the balance. But the feather for me connects to the ancestors, or spirit guides and spirit totems. So although we're kind of grounding ourselves again, for me, connection to our past, connection to our ancestors, connection to those guides that are with us all the time will help bring us back to where it is we need to be. And then, of course, I have it becoming a root system. For grounding, for going into the earth, for connection to our mother, connection to nature. For me, that's a very big part of grounding, is when I'm returning to myself, I feel as though I am returning back to nature, to Mother Earth, to the primal that is within the soil around us. When I say things like this, I sound ridiculous, and I understand that. I just hope it makes sense, because I don't know any other way to explain it. And then I have two spirals kind of shooting off from the ground, because there is still magic to be found within these roots, and I wanted that to be represented. Then here we have an Apache tear. Now the stone I used with the card was an onyx, but I liked the Apache tear for the candle because the Apache tear gives a bit of comfort. It gives a bit of soothing to the whole release process, or shadow working, release, grief, all those kinds of things. Apache tear, it helps to ground. It's still very much a grounding stone, but it has a bit of comfort in it. And sometimes with grounding, it is coming from a rather dark realization. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that little bit of comfort. Of course, Mother Nature is going to connect you to that. But I just feel the help with that crystal is such a huge thing. Then on the top here, I left my notes in my bag, so let's see how well I remember this. I have sage for earth. I have lavender for air. I have, was it cinnamon or oak for fire? Oh goodness, I'm blanking. I will put my herbal blend in the description below because I cannot for the life remember at this moment, and I'm not entirely sure where my notebook ended up. I've been working in various places of the house, and so it will take too long for me to get up and grab it. But yes, I've got the herbal ring on top. I used one herb, resin, what have you, of each element: earth, air, fire, water, and then one for spirit. And then the oils that I used in the major part of the base pillar, the brown, when I poured it, I used a coffee essential oil. And sorry, it just took me a minute to think of what I consecrated with. So I used a coffee essential oil because for me, coffee does have protective natures as well, or properties as well. But for me, I do personally connect it to kind of that awakening. For me, grounding is something that is needed or amplified when you have awakened, when you are aware that there are other places that you can travel, that there are other experiences for you to have, when you know you do have to take other journeys. It's not simply you're mundane, wake up, go to work, go to sleep. You have more to do. And so I wanted to give honor to that stimulus. I wanted it to be something that, yes, you are awakened, you are aware of what is going on around you, and that's awesome, and that's not something to be scared of. But you do need to come back from those journeys. You do need to come back to yourself, and that's why I consecrated with sandalwood. Sandalwood is very good for grounding. It can aid with meditation, which again is a good thing. But like the Apache tear, it does kind of have this comfort. It has this relaxation. It has this calmness. And sometimes when you're coming back and you're needing that relaxation, or you're needing to ground, you need a bit of comfort. You need a bit of relaxation and calmness to aid you in that journey. The color brown I chose because it does connect to nature magic. It does connect to shamanism and just kind of being out with those energies. And again, for some reason, when I think of grounding, that's where my mind goes. I personally go out into my visualization as being out in nature. But brown is also a very good color for grounding. It is the color of the ground for most places, so it would make sense. The top of the candle, I have 3 color drips. I've got black for protection. Again, it's another good color for grounding. Dark green for growth, for healing. Again, it is another grounding color. And then I chose to go with a lighter green for a bit more of that renewal energy. It still connects to healing, still connects to growth and fertility, but it's a little bit of the lighter energy. And it also is a grounding color. The engraving that I have, I highlighted with white paint. Normally when I do highlighting, I rub with oil, and then I rub with like ground cinnamon is a good one, or ground clove, or ground sage, ground spice or herb of some sort. But this one, it was such an intricate piece. I wanted to get every bit of it, and paint works very well for that. I chose white because it gives a cleansing. So you have the black for the protection, the brown for grounding, and the white for cleansing. So it really is a great meditation candle because you have kind of all of these aspects built into it, but the major part is to ground and replenish yourself from within. So yeah, that is the Time to Ground candle. I apologize again for not having my notes and not being better prepared. I will get better about that on other videos. And I hope that was insightful. This piece was going to be on Etsy, but I actually had someone request to purchase it before it was even finished. So I'm going to get that shipped out. But I wanted to share this with you guys since so many of you did participate, and I kind of wanted to share a bit more of my personal thoughts on the piece as well as the intuitive aspect. So thank you, blessed be, and I will talk to you again later. Bye guys.